As of this moment, the Crewman is still right-hand drive, but at the end of this episode of Josh's Car Corner, it won't be. So just like I took the Firewall out of the GTO front cut that I bought, I also have to take the Firewall out of the Crewman. But because this is still in the car with all of its structure intact and all of its frame, this is going to be in some ways a much easier thing to do, and in some ways a little bit more difficult. The one thing I can tell you right now is that the windshield is out, and I can actually show you the tool that we use to get the windshield out. So this is the actual tool that we used, and this is actually a GM tool provided. It's made by Kentmore Tool, who makes a lot of the factory specific tools that are used to repair vehicles. And this is actually in the Holden service manual, so I knew the J number to look for. I think it's actually J36020, something like that. What it is it's simply two handles and a piece of braided piano wire. So what we had to do is we had to cut a slit somewhere in the urethane under the windshield, and we actually did it along the bottom because it's the easiest place to get to. And then we just got one end of this in here, you undo it, and then you just poke it up through the hole, put it back through the hole on this tool, and then all you do is you just saw back and forth like this, and just put some pressure on it, and you cut your way right through all of the urethane. Took us about an hour to do it. And the thing about this is this piano wire, especially over time, it does wear out. And the original wire that was on here, we actually broke twice until we didn't have enough wire to do anything with. Then I had to go to Napa, which actually sells this piano wire, and we got 72 feet of it for $20. And we only had to use this little 3-foot section or whatever this is to finish the job up, so I still have 70 feet of this. And what I'm told for reassembly is, the trick is you keep the majority of the urethane that's here, you leave the urethane that's already attached to the body, because it's hard to get this stuff to attach to metal. So what they do is they're just gonna put more urethane on top of this urethane when they go to put the windshield back in. But that is not a big deal right now. That's for later. Right now I gotta start getting this glue and everything cut out of here. So I'll walk you through all the different places we have to cut the glue out and the methods I use to get the glue out to get this Firewall out. Okay, so to get the glue out of these joints, there's only a couple of tools that I have used. The first one is your simple utility knife, and then a couple of straight razor blades to get in those tight spaces. And then I have a 180-degree pick and a 90-degree pick. And then I use just a simple flat blade screwdriver. In some cases, you're cutting this glue out. In some cases, you just gotta keep pulling with a pick or something and just keep ripping that glue out. And the goal is to just get as much glue out as you can, to minimize the amount of glue that's holding these together when you go to try to pull this thing out. So I'm going to start right here. Right here is where the Firewall joins to the main body neck, and you can actually see the Firewall laying on top of the body right here. There's a crease that overlaps, and then right over the windshield frame too, there's a gap right here that's full of urethane and glue that we need to get out. So I'm going to start cutting this glue away right now with my utility knife. And I'm probably going to follow up with my straight edge to try to get all the way under this thing, and try to take these big chunks out so I can start working on the littler chunks. So if you go back and watch episode 76 of Josh's Car Corner, that's the episode where I revealed to the world that I had bought this thing. Since 2020, when I bought the thing, I've learned a lot more about the Crewman that I haven't shared with anybody, but now that I'm working on it, it seems like a good time to share it. So I found out that what happened with this particular car is that it was in Queensland, and it was the victim of a flood. And it was actually a statutory write-off in 2017 as a freshwater flood vehicle. And that would normally be a concerning thing because you'd be worried about like the interiors getting soaked with water and all of the seats and everything and the foam getting filled up and just getting moldy and being a mess. But because all that was ripped out of the car, I don't have to worry about any of that. And the vast majority of the wiring is gone, the HVAC unit is gone. I couldn't use any of that stuff anyway because it was all for right-hand drive. So the fact that it's not in there is a bonus. And I've been over the entire vehicle since then. There isn't an ounce of rust on this entire vehicle. So either the water only got up to maybe just the rocker panels and they wrote it off for that, simply enough. Or the paint on this thing was just in really excellent condition, still is, and it just withstood all of the water and didn't rust. Now, does that mean I might find rust underneath the paint when it comes time to paint this thing properly? Possibly, but I somehow doubt it, just because of the condition the whole car is in. See, Australia's got a climate a lot like Arizona, where it's mostly dry, so rust is not really an issue unless you live near the ocean. And based on this thing, I don't think this was near the ocean, so it was not dealing with exposure to salt air all the time, and I think as a result of that, it stayed in really good shape. As you can see here, I'm just cutting layers, and I'm just trying to pull out strips of this glue. Here's some more pieces. Here's all the pieces I pulled out so far. That's most of the glue in this corner. I'm going to try to get more out here before I start ripping at it with my picks. I'm not sure what the actual name is for this glue. I think it's referred to by the Australians as panel adhesive. And I'm going to eventually have to get myself a can or a couple of cans of that, because I'll have to eventually glue the left-hand drive firewall into this thing just the same way that Holden did. Okay, I'm doing pretty good with these big chunks right here. I'm going to keep working on this, and once I've got most of the big stuff out, I'll get in here with the camera so you can see in detail what these gaps look like. Okay, so I've been working on this for about an hour and a half, so I want to show you what a side looks like that is still sealed in like the factory did it. So you've got all that glue along here. Then it comes over here, you've got the urethane from the window, and you're going down this section right here and all the way around to the underside. And see, it's going all the way down through there and then working its way all the way down. So this is what I've got done so far. In here, you can see where the firewall joins the body, and there's that piece of, it's like rubber just to put between it to act as kind of a sound barrier. But then you come all the way along here and down and all the way along this gap as well, all the way along here, coming around to the underside here and into here. What I've been doing is start with something broad like the flat blade screwdriver and just cutting that crack. Use these blades to get rid of the big chunks. You can see all the big chunks right here that I've already pulled out. There's a lot in this gap right here. There's a bunch hanging out down here that just kind of gets in the way. And once you've opened as much of this up with the screwdriver as you can, then you go back at it with the right angle pick and you just dig and you dig and you dig and you dig. There's a lot to get out. You can see a gap right here. The seam sealer goes underneath that, and you try to pull as much of that out as you can to open that up. And then along under here too, and try to rip as much of that out. I got a blade in there as deep as I could and cut that back as far as I could. And then just along here, open this gap up as much as you possibly can. And I still have to go all the way along the bottom here. I got to try to get the harness out of the way so I can make more entry into that area and go along. So that's where I am so far. So I'll keep working on this and I'll show you how I get the rest of it done as I go. Okay, it's a new day. I started working on this again a couple hours ago. In order to get everything out of this corner, I had to loosen up this part of the harness that goes through. I had to pull it back. So if you come around here, back in here, there's a section on right-hand drive models, it's a little different, but there's a section right here where this bulkhead of wiring attaches. There's one bolt up there that holds it, and then you pull it out and away. There's a rubber seal back here. You just gotta have to pull that out. There's a lip that holds it in. You just gotta pull it past the lip, and then you can pull this out. Then you've got room to move this back. And then I had room to navigate the whole harness to get it out of my way so I could clean up that whole area that runs behind it. There was also a piece of sound deadening in there, some, I forget what it's called, Dynamat, something like that. So I've now got this channel cleaned out all the way around the bottom and all the way back up to that corner. The only part I still have to do is right here on the left-hand side to free this side section. But before I get to working on that, I'm going to see what I can do to get this side broken loose. So I have to undo the 4 bolts. So like I said, here's the one that was hiding out behind the door. That's a long bolt. It's like that long, about 6-7 inches. That comes out. And then there's another bolt right back there you can see. And I'll pull out the 4 bolts on both sides. Then I'm going to get my engine hoist in here in such a way with a chain that I can grab this. I don't want to bend this and damage it. I got to find a way to lift it up straight. But once I do, I'm going to get it set in position. And then I'll show you how I get this glue dealt with so it'll help break loose a little easier. Okay, I've got my engine hoist set up in a way that I think will work. See, I figured out that when you pull this up, you want to have your lifting point as much over the vertical part of the firewall as possible, so your force is the most equally distributed there. Otherwise, you're just pulling one corner too much or the other corner too much. So this should work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift and I'm going to just put some stress on this chain. Right now there isn't any. I'm going to put some stress on this. Then I'm going to go around the perimeter right here, all along the side and underneath with this, my MAP gas torch. And I'm just going to get that glue really nice and hot to make it softer so it'll come apart easier. So hopefully just the amount of torque that the chain is putting on it, as I'm heating it up, that glue will start to separate and lift away, and I won't need to use a great deal of force at all to get this apart. The hardest part to break loose is the side, because you've literally got glue running from here all the way back to inside the car. This part along the bottom doesn't hold the firewall that much, and it's easier to pull against that. So I'm going to get set up here, put some torque on this chain, and then start going around with the MAP gas, and hopefully this thing will start to lift up on its own and break loose. There it goes. Okay. All right. More pressure. The problem is I can't really use too much fire in this corner or I'm going to destroy this harness. And I don't want to destroy the harness. All right, I've repositioned here. I'm going to do something that I did the last time. I've got the chain around the brake booster. I put it back on, I bolted it down tight, and I'm going to lift on that. If I break it, I break it, although it's pretty solid steel. And I'm just going to use that to try to lift up with a lot more force. And hopefully that will break it loose. And I'm also going to take the MAP gas and go around the inside of the car and try to attack the glue from there. Hopefully I'll be able to get it heated up more on that side too and get this thing out. Well, I figured that was gonna happen at some point. At least I was in the car when it happened. Well, I haven't been able to get it to buzz, so unfortunately I'm gonna have to do it the way I did it before, where I'm gonna have to pry from the inside of the car and then jack on the outside of the car. So I'm gonna switch to this process and hopefully this will pop it up. It sounds like it was starting to break loose. I'm gonna heat that glue up one more time and give it another crack, and hopefully she breaks loose on this corner. Stupid aerial camera died right when it popped, but I was actually lifting the whole right front corner off the ground. This wheel was off the ground, so I had to come stand on the bumper, and then that was enough to finally snap it loose just like that, instantly. So this corner's out. Now I just got to finish getting the rest of the glue clean up on this corner, and hopefully I can get this corner lifted out tonight too, and this firewall will be out. All right, I have scraped the last of the glue away on this corner, and I've heated it up. Because so much of it broke loose on when it snapped loose before, I'm hoping I can just pry a little bit here, or pull a little bit here, and the whole thing's just gonna come up and I'll be done. It's feeling good. Sounds good. I can hear the glue cracking. Oh yeah, there she goes. That's it. Firewall is out. All right, well then I'm gonna detach the chain, get everything off of this thing, and I'm gonna lift it out of here and slam it down on the ground, and we are gonna wrap this episode up. So there you go, the Crewman is now officially no-wheel drive. So the next thing I need to do is go ahead and clean the rest of the glue out of all of these channels and get them spotless. I have to do the same thing to the GTO firewall, and then I'm gonna test fit it in here, make sure everything fits good and nothing is bent or out of shape. And then I'll take it back out and I'll start getting ready to work on paint and some other future projects. But this was a big step. This had to happen, and it happened without too much difficulty. I'm pretty excited. So look for more shorts in the future when I start doing little things. But thanks for watching this episode of Josh's Car Corner and Project Crewman. I'll see you in the next one.